Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Hill. With me, as always, is Austin Wader, and we're back talking college football action. If you didn't watch the NFL episode, the blue Nike shirts were not intentional. They're not the same shirt. They're very similar, though. But we talked about some awesome playoff action. We talked about one super duper awesome comeback team. And we also talked about a team that was a little bit of a disappointment. But we talked about an awesome coaching change that they may or may not have made. So we got you caught up on all the latest NFL news. But if you're here watching with us, we're talking college football. And in the usual, we would start with, the games from the past week and talk about that. And don't worry, we'll get to all that. But we're going to start talking transfer portal. And really, first, we're going to talk about a big NFL draft news
Yes.
that came up. Dante Moore, projected number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft, the number 2 quarterback in this year's class, has declared his intention to come back to the University of Oregon and play another season. And look, it really does suck for you if you're an NFL GM. You're looking to get a quarterback in an already kind of thin class. Now Mendoza, almost surefire the number 1 pick now.
Yeah.
And now kind of figuring out who's going to be your number 2 option, who's going to be the next quarterback off the board. This gets tough, but I think this is huge as far as maturity goes for Dante Moore to be like, yeah, with the way I closed out this season and my last game at Oregon, maybe it's not a game he wants to be his last game at Oregon, but also, look, for as good as he's been, it showed a lot of his weaknesses. Holds on to the ball a little too long, and not just holds on to the ball a little too long, doesn't really go anywhere when he's holding. He just stays in the pocket,
Yeah.
sitting duck, turnovers, made some bad decisions. I mean, pick 6 on the first drive of the
Yeah.
game. So I think from a maturity standpoint, this is like, hey, this is a guy that knows he has stuff to work on and wants to be better before he comes to the NFL. To me, that shows, hey, this is a guy I want to keep my eye on as far as like a off the field and his character. This says a lot. So tough blow to teams looking for a quarterback, but I think really the right decision for Dante Moore.
I think it was too. And I know I was talking with someone about this, and they were saying, like, what do you think? It's like, well, to me, if he's smart, he comes back another year because to me, there's a lot of good with Dante Moore. He showed a lot of good this year, but he also showed a lot of things that he can improve as well. So, but I thought it would have been smart for him to come back. But I just wondered if that money was going to get to his head and say, you're a top 2 pick no matter what. You know,
Yeah.
you're gonna make so much money here. What if you get injured next year and you're not a top 2 pick? You lose that money. And that's always the risk with it. But I've heard of great quarterbacks. I think I heard this one guy, Peyton Manning, who told he was going to be the number 1 pick and went back to school. And last I checked, he was still the number 1 pick next year. So, we'll see where it goes with him. Again, I personally agree with you. I think it's the right option for him. And it kind of works out for Oregon no matter what, because they had obviously picked up a quarterback in the portal that we're going to talk about in a little bit here. But that quarterback they picked up can kind of do the thing that Dante Moore did when he
I was
went to
gonna say
Oregon.
it. I
When
was gonna
he
say it when we got there.
Whenever he did, sorry to bring it up now. I'll just leave
No,
it
you're
at that.
good.
But it leads to where that could be something to keep an eye on for that next NFL draft. But I think it's great for Dante Moore, and also I think it's smart. Don't go play for the Jets unless you absolutely don't have a choice. Peyton
Yeah.
Manning did it so he couldn't. If only Zach Wilson had been smarter.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and jump into it. The guy you're hinting at here to start our transfer portal talk. We're not going to hit every player. I'm just going to hit some of the big names that I feel like we really need to talk about. It's going to be maybe you like this, maybe you don't. It's going to be quarterback heavy. There are a lot of good quarterbacks that are in this transfer portal. A lot of big quarterback news. That's a lot of guys at the top here. And let's start with Dylan Raiola. I know he's not at the top. He's on 24/7 Sports. He's the number 15 guy in the transfer portal. But look, started out right away as a starter at Nebraska, but looking for a different opportunity and understandable, even though there has been success in Nebraska, but kind of looking for a big market, maybe, more of a championship contender in his time. Because I think Matt Rule's got the team trending in the right direction. But sure, in the next 2 years, or really in the next year, had he stayed at Nebraska, he probably could have been drafted after next year.
Oh yeah.
Uh, you know, are they going to be a championship contender? Probably not. And what I thought was awesome is he has that red shirt, the willingness to come to Oregon and say, I'm willing to sit even if Dante Moore does come back. I'll sit and redshirt and learn. I think that's huge because I think Dante Moore, like you talked about, took huge leaps when he left UCLA, where he was a true freshman starter for the whole season, left UCLA to Oregon, who also had just gotten Dylan Gabriel, and said, I am fine to redshirt and learn from a guy who's got veteran experience and a great coach and a great offensive system. And now Dylan Raiola gets to do that same exact thing. I think this is a huge, awesome move. And especially you see what it did for Dante Moore and what kind of prospect he's turned out to be this past season. This is a great move for Dylan Raiola. The unselfishness to do this, I can't speak enough to that. To me, to be a guy who could have been a starter anywhere he wants. Name your price, name your money. You're the starter next year at a big contender program. And to go to Oregon and say, I want to be the backup, I want to learn if I have to behind Dante Moore, I'll do that. I love that because, again, kind of what I was talking about Dante Moore shows a maturity to be like, I know I can improve, and this is an awesome opportunity for me to become a better quarterback.
I agree. And like I said, I think it makes a ton of sense for him. Like it's literally almost identical to the Dante Moore situation.
Great.
Comes in as this big time freshman recruit. There's all this hype about him. He doesn't play horrible, kind of similar to Dante Moore. Doesn't play horrible, but it's not the best situation maybe for him. And he's like, you know what? I can learn. Like I said, the thing that really got me was whenever, he said it himself. He's like, if Dante Moore comes back, that's fine by me. Because obviously they're going to let him compete against him. Obviously, obviously I think
Yeah.
that's very fair to give him that chance.
Great.
But if he wants to sit for a year and learn this offense and feel more confident in the system and learn from Dante Moore and ask him, I mean that's something else. He can ask Dante, is like, what did you learn or what did you pay attention to during your year where you didn't start? What did you watch about Dylan Gabriel? Like what go after his brain, talk to him about it.
Yeah.
So because these two are so similar backgrounds and both coming to Oregon, sat for a year. I mean, it's an intriguing situation. I hope Dylan Raiola uses this and learns. I'm also kind of wondering if it's because he saw Patrick Mahomes in an Oregon jersey after their
Yeah.
forfeit, but who knows?
Um, Look, I'm wondering what they're putting in the water in Eugene on these recruit visits. Because if Oregon can kind of become this pipeline where it's like,
Mhm.
hey, we've got a really good guy. You're a really good young quarterback. Would you like to come sit a year and learn the offense? I mean, how much of an advantage is that? You get a guy in the transfer portal and he gets to learn the offense for a
Yep.
year. And then he gets to come out and be an NFL draft prospect. This could be like the start. I mean, this could be a new method in the transfer portal that we're starting to see kind of unfold before us. But yeah, I just don't even know, like the talk that you're giving these guys that makes them think, yeah, I want to be here. I'll sit a year to learn the offense and to become a better player. It's kind of awesome for this team.
Yeah.
Um, but let's start at the top here of 24/7 Sports list. I like their rankings of players a little bit better, which is why I'm leaning on
Mhm.
24/7 Sports here. And they have the rightful number one player in the transfer portal, Sam Levitt,
Yes.
out of Arizona State. He's committed to LSU, to Lane Kiffin. Yikes, watch out in the SEC. This Lane Kiffin offense just got its gunslinger.
Yeah, that's exactly what everyone wanted to see. Whenever I saw, obviously, for those of y'all who don't know, the Damon Williams situation, I was like, if he gets Sam Levitt or Damon Williams, it's like, what are you going to do there? Because again, uh, Charlie Weiss Jr. is going to be coming over for play calling Ole Miss. You saw how good that offense worked with Trinidad Chambliss. Sam Levitt saw that and said, yeah, that'll do. That'll do. And we've seen Sam Levitt, what he did at Arizona under Coach Dillingham's offense, leading them to a Big 12 title, being such great play as a freshman, now learning, dealing with a lot of injuries last year. Now he's coming to an offense like Lane Kiffin. Hard not to be really intrigued by this and seeing what he could maybe do next year. I think this is someone we're going to keep an eye on as a potential Heisman candidate.
Yeah, one of the top players in college football coming into this past season, like you said, injuries kept him down. But he's an exciting guy who's going to draw a lot of attention, especially now that he's in a new, exciting offensive system. And not to mention now in the SEC where you get that extra media attention.
Yes.
Uh, then the unrightful, no disrespect to Brendan Sorsby, number two player in the transfer portal. Look, the guy we'll talk about at number three. I just don't
Yeah.
know how Brendan Sorsby really is a top two wide receiver in this class. I mean, I guess maybe top two of guys who we didn't know where they were going to go. We talk about Drew Mestamaker here in a second. It felt pretty obvious where this guy was going to end up.
That's fair.
But with Brendan Sorsby, look, had a visit at LSU, had a visit at Texas Tech, and chose Texas Tech over LSU. And this gets them a guy that I think, sure, is Sorsby maybe the most exciting quarterback in this class, in this transfer portal class? No. But is he a good, game managing quarterback who I think is, no offense, it's a little bit of an upgrade to what they had last year. I think you get a little bit more confidence, a little bit more taking care of the football. Sure, he's not going to maybe have the most exciting numbers. We'll see in this new offense how his numbers look, but didn't have the most exciting numbers last year. But he took care of the ball. And obviously, again, if you happen to watch the Liberty Bowl, you saw this offense did not look the same without Brendan Sorsby there running the offense with the kind of multiple quarterback offense that they ran out there. I like this move for Texas Tech. You get you a guy that's going to maybe take care of the football a little bit, especially after how that game against Oregon went, where turnovers were crucial in deciding that game. And you give yourselves a chance to compete right away by getting one of the top quarterbacks in this group.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of agree with you, but I mean, and this is gonna be a clip that I know I'm gonna end up posting on here whenever I say it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think Brendan Sorsby's heavily overrated. I just
I agree. I agree.
I'm not I'm just not a fan. Like I said, he's a game manager. Okay, he doesn't turn it over. Great, but is he the number two quarterback in this transfer portal with all
No,
these
he's
guys?
not.
No, it's not even close. And, he could prove me wrong at Texas Tech. He could, but and I'm not gonna lie. In my opinion, this is basically just uh Baron Morton that just doesn't turn the ball over. Which, if you think about it, for Texas Tech, is pretty much like you said. It is an upgrade for that offense there. But I'm just not the biggest fan. He's a game manager and everything. So when I saw ESPN's like number one player in the portal is Sorsby, I'm like, what are you talking about? Are
It's
you
why
high? What
it's
do
why
you
we're not
mean he's
using
number one?
it's definitely why we're not using ESPN's list because
Yes, and
I
there's a million reasons not to trust that ESPN
yeah.
list. But I think this
Um
could be good for Texas Tech for next year. Like I said, he doesn't turn the ball over. As long as he's efficient, doesn't turn the ball over, that helps them. But they need a good ground game. The reason Cincinnati had success earlier in the year, they had a good ground game to go off of him. They got to have that next
yeah.
year as well.
And Texas Tech did have a good ground game this year. Yeah, I think I think he's overrated as a quarterback, but I think he's a good ad for Texas Tech.
Right.
I think he helps Texas Tech. And I think we could see better numbers, more exciting numbers at Texas Tech because it is a more offensive system. They do try to, hang the big numbers. But like you said, mostly over Morton, he just takes care of the ball better. And that was, again, kind of the difference at the end of that Oregon game. It was close, and they just had some turnovers in the red zone, and finally Oregon was able to break through at the end of that game. But let's talk about number three. And while it's exciting to think about where this guy might end up and who he might be playing for next year, we did kind of talk about what felt like a no-brainer and what would maybe be the most exciting place for him to go of all. Drew Mestamaker follows his head coach to Oklahoma State, and with the plethora of other North Texas guys that followed suit on Oklahoma State, they become an instant contender again in this Big 12. This guy was awesome this year. He
Mm-hmm.
gets to be with basically the same unit, but in a bigger system. We saw how good this guy played last year. I'm very excited for Drew Messamaker playing for Oklahoma State next year.
Ladies and gentlemen, Oklahoma State is must-watch TV again. It's felt
Yeah,
so long since I've been able to sit here and go, man, I can't wait to watch Oklahoma State. Then because that just bring like the second I heard he come in, I was like, oh, I'm getting Brandon Whedon, Justin Blackman flashbacks. Randall, the running back. And we'll go ahead and I'm assuming we'll dive into it, but they brought a couple of his teammates over from North
yeah,
Texas that like we predicted. So same guy, same system. just a different uniform, maybe an upgrade in competition. Good luck figuring out this offense, though. I mean, this is an offense. I hope this brings us back to the good old days of 2010's Big 12 football. I really hope it is. I miss myself a 65-58 shootout in the Big 12 at random points on Saturdays. But I think he's going to be great here. I will say he committed a lot quicker than I thought he was because I thought he'd be like, let me put feelers out there on these other places because to me, I thought he was number two right behind Levitt. I thought he was number two right behind
Agreed.
him. And
Agreed.
so, but he ultimately ended up going there. And look, like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And again, just a different upgrade in competition. But I can't wait to see what he does and the pieces they brought in, this coaching staff. I hope we're back to the early 2010s Oklahoma State Cowboys here.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to be a treat to watch next year. But let's talk about a team that got some momentum and then decided, hey, let's go ahead and add on a little bit more. Cam Coleman's leaving Auburn to go to Texas. Hey, just what
Woo!
everybody wanted to see. Arch Manning gets his feet under him, and now he's got a freak wide receiver to throw the football to. Just what we needed at Texas. This is an all-time get for Texas Tech. Sure, maybe you don't need a ton on offense. You're not going out and needing to worry about getting a quarterback. Let's go and make sure Arch Manning's got, again, just an absolute versatile weapon in Cam Coleman. Look, I'm not a Texas fan, and it kind of gets me excited to watch this Texas offense. Arch Manning with the momentum he's got under him. Cam Coleman and the way he played last year. This is going to be a tough Texas offense if these guys play like they did closing out their 2025 campaigns.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we thought the Arch hype was bad this year. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, you don't even want to know. Like it's not just gonna, and it's gonna include us this time because the way they finished the season, the way Arch finished the year and chose, I'm gonna come back another year. And now you add, I'm gonna go ahead and say, I'm gonna say this: the best skill player in this entire portal, best skill player in the entire portal by far. And to get him as a new wide receiving option, I'm like, oh my gosh. Again, now the key thing in any offense with wide receivers, and we know that NFL, college, you got to get the football to them. But if there's anyone I'm going to count on being able to get the ball in skilled players' hands with great speed, Sarkisian's offense usually does that pretty well. So I imagine this is going to be a pretty successful pairing. Just is it going to be successful enough to reach those high expectations? I think this talent level they got there is going to help build those expectations and for right reasons this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a good looking team in a good looking spot. Um, I'm going. I'm all in on what they've got going right now. But then let's take a look at Chaz Coleman out of Penn State. Uh, Fierce edge, best edge rusher on 24/7 here in the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but look, with Chaz Coleman, Penn State gonna see a lot of shakeup after this James
Yes.
Franklin move, and I like that Tennessee's able to get in and get a guy like this. You think about, 2 years ago, guys like James Pierce that were on this defense, and we talked about it this year. That's what this team missed this
Mm-hmm.
year was they didn't have that same edge on defense. The offense looked really good the way they were able to air it out. That reminded me of what they were able to do with Hendon Hooker and the excitement they had with that team's offense. But this defense was just kind of a letdown, and to go out get one of the better, defensive linemen out here in the portal, bring him in from Penn State, and instantly start to upgrade that defense. That's paying attention to your weaknesses and capitalizing here in the transfer portal. I really like what Heupel's up to in the transfer portal.
Well, and also another thing to factor in was the big hire Tennessee made this offseason of Jim Knowles, the Penn State defensive coordinator, coming over to Knoxville to be their defensive coordinator. About as home run of a hire as you could ask for if you're Tennessee. I know there was the other head coaching moves and that stuff that went on, but that's one of the best moves in the entire offseason so far is Jim Knowles coming into Tennessee. That defense is already better than what it was last year with him coming in. And now you bring some of the players from that Penn State defense. Yeah, that'll do. Again, talented pass rusher. Yeah, like I said, they missed those James Pierce, those guys off the edge to get pressure on the quarterback. And again, in Jim Knowles' system, those guys can have a field day in those systems. And I imagine we're going to see that here in Knoxville. Now, the big question for Tennessee is, Can this offense continue that pace that we saw for most of last year? We usually think it can in this Josh Heupel offense, but this defense now with this piece and bringing Jim Knowles in as a DC should help them out a lot better and be more successful next season.
Yeah, let's talk about a guy I like to kind of keep my eye on who's been an exciting piece. And it reminds me of another move that Oregon made a year ago. Coy Perch coming over from Minnesota.
Woo!
This is like exactly the Dylan Theinman move that they made last transfer portal. Very talented, physical safety coming from a smaller Big Ten school that, hasn't had huge success, but this has been a guy kind of at the center of what success the team has had. And while I will say Minnesota's much better than Purdue has been as of late, Coy Perch now going to come and step into kind of a big spot playing with these Oregon Ducks. Again, it's just another move I love for Oregon. To get Theinman last year, to get Coy Perch this year, it's like the same kind of move, same level of talent and excitement. Another guy that's kind of slept on maybe by your casual college football fan, but this is a guy I really like, and I think he's going to provide a similar level of elevation to that secondary that Dylan Theinman did.
Yeah, I know there's better defensive players in this portal. Absolutely. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. This is my favorite defensive player in the portal. When he's going to Oregon, and literally the second he did, I thought of exactly what the hype you have for Dylan Theinman when he came in this past year. I was like, man, because this guy was an All-American at Minnesota. Let's remember, this man was an All-American for that Minnesota defense. I mean, boy, oh boy, I'm intrigued. I think he's going to be a great leader to put in this Oregon secondary. And man, I tell you what, Dan Lanning continues to put pieces together every single year, balanced on both sides. Where I keep on saying, I feel like I say it every single year with Oregon. I'm like, they're the most balanced team in the country. And now you have great leadership here on defense with Coy Parrish. Again, I think best safety in the portal. My personal favorite player in the portal. He immediately is going to help a lot of the younger guys in that secondary and make this Oregon secondary one of the best, not just in the Big Ten, but in all college football next year.
Yeah, certified bold take A plus pickup here in the transfer portal. Let's talk about a guy whose move was going to be exciting. It was imminent. DJ Lagway. I know a lot of people had eyes on Lagway. We've seen his athleticism. We've seen, the brights. We've seen the highs. We've seen the lows of DJ Lagway of Florida. It was kind of about where was he going to find himself, and can he find himself in a situation, where they're able to kind of improve him as a quarterback. And as of now, committed to Baylor. I think that's probably where he'll end up staying. There was the up in the air about what was going to happen with Trinidad Chambliss. It looks like even though the NCAA denied his extra year of eligibility, he's probably going to play again next year. It's a whole lot of legal.
There's going to be a lot of off the field, in the courtroom kind of drama there with him to keep an eye on.
That's kind of going to be boring and drag your feet on. But just know Diego Pavia was in a similar situation last offseason, and because of an injunction by the judge, he was allowed to come back and play. And a lot of people think, especially since the judge in the case is an Ole Miss alum, that we're going to see another similar injunction that will allow for Trinidad Chambliss to have one more season. But yes, once that news was temporary that Trinidad Chambliss might not be next year, DJ Lagway, after committing to Baylor, took a visit to Ole Miss. It seems that nothing's come of that. Nothing probably will come of it now that Chambliss will probably be back next year. But DJ Lagway to Baylor now. I thought this was interesting. I know he is from Texas. I guess, A&M, Tech, and Texas are all not really in the quarterback market anymore. So heading to Baylor, this is an interesting move because Sawyer Robertson had some awesome statistical games this season at Baylor. And I think Lagway could look fun in this offense. I wonder about his ability as a passer, maybe being polished a little bit. I'm not saying that Baylor can't do it, but it's not exactly the quarterback guru coaching and situation I thought he might end up in. I know he's not exactly Lane Kiffin's type because he's not polished off as a quarterback, but I thought Lane Kiffin could be the kind of guy that could guide him and get his, mechanics maybe on the right track. But I'm interested to see what happens at Baylor. I think this is a swing that you take that is going to put Baylor on the map. It's going to get people talking about Baylor. And if he can deliver, they're in the media. This is going to be a team that's going to get that media benefit with having a guy like DJ Lagway.
Yeah. So something to know. His dad went to, I think, played at Baylor actually. So this is
Wow.
something that, and there's even the picture on Twitter, I'm sure it's gone around, of him at Baylor with RG3, a younger DJ Lagway
I
with
have seen that
RG3.
picture.
So, it works out for him. And again, I kind of think I think it's going to be a good fit, with what Sawyer Robertson was able to have success there. But this also just screams to me, hey, Dave Aranda, your job's on the line. I suggest you do something in the portal. And he's
Yeah.
going out and getting DJ Lagway. That's kind of my thought when I saw this. I was like, good for DJ, happy for his family that they'll get to go to his dad's alma mater. But this screams, I need to make a big move because my butt's on the line next year. At least
Or
to me,
even
that's what I heard when I saw it.
yeah, or even to me, it says, we're gonna foot the bill to get you a really good quarterback. Show us what you can do
Mm-hmm.
when, we kind of go all out. Is it the team's problem? Or if we give you a better roster and maybe a little bit more exciting players, or is it the coach that's not going to deliver now that we've
Mm-hmm.
got a roster we feel pretty confident in? So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. I think it's definitely no matter the situation, it's like Dave Aranda, this is kind of your last chance to prove yourself here at Baylor. Let's talk about a guy leaving Texas, DeAndre Moore.
Mm-hmm.
There's been an exciting kind of playmaker. Get the ball in this guy's hands, and he makes a lot of moves. Kind of a reason to go and get a guy like Cam Coleman. He's headed to Colorado, and to me, this is an interesting move because DeAndre Moore is one of the better receivers uh, in college football right now. One of the better receivers is going to be returning, and it's just kind of weird to me for him to choose to go to Colorado. I know guys like Coach Prime, and I'm not even anti-Coach Prime. I think he's a great players coach. He cares about his players a ton. And I think as a player, that's awesome. But they sucked last year. They sucked last year. And to me, playing at Texas and Texas kind of being on the upswing, and even if you don't want to be at Texas anymore, this is not the best team he could have found himself on. I'll be interested to see what happens. Julian Lewis, is
Yes.
that
Yes.
Julian Lewis going to be playing quarterback next year? Got the red shirt. He's an exciting up and comer, but there are a flood of guys. You look at the top of this transfer portal coming out of Colorado. You
Mm-hmm.
talked about Amari Miller. Uh, you talk about Jordan Seaton, who hasn't committed anywhere yet. And those are just guys here in the top 15 who are leaving. So I'm not saying they won't be good. It just kind of surprised me that a talent of this level is going to make the move out of what
Mm-hmm.
I feel like is a pretty good situation into a kind of a not necessarily bad situation, but off of the momentum of last year. I don't know. It doesn't get me fired up. I get last year. Get me fired up. You had the Heisman winner. The offense looked fun. Maybe they're finding their footing, but last year it's like a step backwards. Caden Salter didn't look great. Didn't really have anything newsworthy on the defense, and now DeAndre Moore. But kind of your thoughts on it?
I mean, it's look, I kind of get why he wanted to leave Texas. I think that's absolutely fair. He was second leading receiver there, but I think he knew, hey, with Cam Coleman coming in, I'm not going to be the number one guy here. I mean, I think that's truly what it came down to for him was whenever he saw him commit, he's like, nothing personal here. I just know I'm not going to be the number one option here if I end up staying because they're obviously going to look to use Cam Coleman. And why wouldn't you? If Cam Coleman was on your roster, you use him, especially with Ryan Wingo being there still. I think those two will be the 1-2 in Texas. But look, I don't hate the move. Like I said, it's just kind of a surprising move to say the least there. But I think it's a move that could work out, if, Julian Lewis is as good as we think he could be for Colorado. Again, there's been a lot of buzz about him whenever he signed at Colorado. There was all kinds of buzz about, what he could do. And like I said, the red shirt was key this year. and they kept it, and he's still there. So obviously everything's on his shoulders entering next season. But man, it's going to be intriguing to see. This is at least a good weapon to give him a chance to see how good he could be at Colorado. But it is kind of surprising he ended up Colorado, but I think it could be a good fit for him still.
Yeah. Then let's talk about another guy. We knew where this guy was going, and it made a lot more sense for this guy as an Oklahoma native. But a guy we had a blast talking about this year, another guy we look excited to see in next year. Caleb Hawkins, also leaving North Texas to head to Oklahoma State, follows his quarterback, follows his coach, and gets to go back home.
Mm.
This look, I was more confident in this move than I was Mestamaker.
Yeah.
I thought would make sense for Mestamaker to go back, but I thought he might feel out his options. But Caleb Hawkins gets to follow his coach, gets to go to a Power Four school, gets to go back home. This screams, guarantee. And again, it took him longer than it did Drew Mestamaker to make the decision. But it also took him longer to enter the transfer portal than it did Drew Mestamaker. So, I mean, again, kind of like we talked about with Mestamaker, this is an exciting move. It really gets you talking about Oklahoma State and thinking about what this team looks like next year.
Absolutely. And again, I think it's a move that's going to work out. I think he was, as everyone should. Look, if you're going to enter the portal, make the smart decision. Let's evaluate our options here. Let's evaluate which schools. And he ultimately decided, I think once he saw Drew Mestamaker was there, he's like, look, Mestamaker's going to be there. Quarterback system, it's going to be the same system I was in. It just makes sense. Plus, like I said, it's closer to home. It's just a move that makes a lot of sense for him. And again, you think about some of the great Oklahoma State teams. Even in those air raid offenses, they had some great ground games. Joseph Randall was a great running back for them there during that time. Ollie Gordon, I think, was a pretty good running back there for a bit of time. Now, if you've heard of the
Yep.
name, he was okay, something like.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to work out well, and especially in that offense that he's familiar with there, I think it's going to lead to great things for him at Oklahoma State with Mestamaker and with that coaching staff there.
Yeah, when we talk about kind of the air raid that North Texas runs, didn't stop Caleb Hawkins from leading the nation in rushing touchdowns and
Not
being up
bad,
there in
not
rushing
bad.
yards. So he definitely still gets his opportunities. Another guy we love talking about here, and again, another chef's kiss to kind of what Alex Golsh is
Hmm.
capable of. Byron Brown following his coach up to Auburn. And look, I said this as my pitch to why you'd want a guy like Alex Golsh. He kept a guy like Byron Brown, who was definitely power forward talented
Hmm.
at USF his whole time. But then when this guy has a chance to enter the transfer portal and go literally anywhere, he still wants to be without Alex Golsh. This is not only the transfer portal whisperer for what he's been able to do, but he's a talent keeper. He keeps talented players and he brings in even more talented players. This is exactly what you want in Alex Golsh, and he brings Byron Brown from Florida to Alabama. This, again, if I'm Auburn, maybe you weren't in on Golsh before, but you got to be in on Golsh now. You get your quarterback for next year. It's Byron Brown. He's a super talented guy. Auburn already looks a lot better coming into next year than they did this year.
Absolutely. Again, look, what was the main thing Hugh Freeze could not figure out at Auburn? The quarterback position was just so rough there. And now you bring in a guy like Byron Brown under Golish, who, look, we've seen him be successful in that system. We've seen him stick around and stay in that system for a while there. And look, I know there's been a lot of mass exodus for Auburn players that are going in the portal, but they picked up some great players in the portal. Auburn has, and I think Byron Brown's the top of it. A great leader who I think can lead this offense and get the right vision in there for Golish about what he wants his future at Auburn to be. Plus, I love Byron Brown this year. If you listen to me in the preseason, you know how much I love Byron Brown. So I hate that he's going to have to go against Arkansas. I do not look forward to that. But I think it's a great move for him. Stick with his coach.
Yeah, we're going to hit three more guys here. They're all quarterbacks. There's so much more to talk about. We'll probably dive a little bit more into the transfer portal a little bit this offseason. But I want to hit a couple of these big name quarterbacks that we haven't talked about yet. And that starts at number 9, Rocco Becht. Another guy that felt a little bit predictable where he might go. Follows his coach, Matt Campbell, up to Penn State. And look, I think this is a boost for this team. Not abuse for this team. Penn State's I'll leave it there. But we talk about this team, and kind of like you said, with Auburn, mass exodus. Kind of a similar thing at Penn State, losing a lot of guys. But that was before a lot of those guys were kind of out on the James Franklin. It's not really a Matt Campbell thing.
Yeah.
Now that Matt Campbell's in, though, he's getting to start bring guys in, and he's getting to bring a guy who's been pretty successful in his system in Rocco Becht. And I like this. I don't know what's really going to happen with Drew Allar. I think even if he does get another year of eligibility or whatever, he's probably not going to be back at Penn State. Um, so who knows what happens there with Drew Allar. But this is just a good move that kind of gets you, hey, we maybe have some things we're going to have to fill in and fix over the course of the season. But we've seen just a couple of years ago what Matt Campbell did when he had to play a bunch of true and redshirt freshmen. So he's no stranger to having to throw stuff together at the last minute. But he now at least gets a guy that can kind of stabilize the offense. He's been in the system. He's a veteran quarterback. We get to see Rocco Becht follow his coach. I like this move for a little bit of consistency for Matt Campbell.
Yeah, I think this is a move that makes a lot of sense of it. You want to talk about mass exodus? We talk about the amount of Iowa State players on the way over to Penn State is ridiculous. It'll be interesting to see what Iowa State does. But I think it's a good move. It's a veteran quarterback, knows it once again, knows the system, knows how to win. Been one of the more successful quarterbacks in the history of Iowa State. So bringing him over with him, and that's what you want to do as a coach. You come into this new situation. You think about Matt Campbell, how long he was at Iowa State, and you need some big things to kind of build off of going into it. And you think, what can I do? I'll bring my quarterback that's been with me my whole time and build success with that. Great move here, getting Rocco back to Happy Valley.
Yeah, I completely agree. Another guy that was kind of the first big guy to go into the transfer portal, I feel like that we were really talking about, Josh Hoover at TCU. And he had a really awesome season this past year. And I like capitalizing on that success, hitting the transfer portal, kind of seeing where his offers take him. And of course, we all know where he ends up. Number one team in the nation right now. We'll be playing for a national championship on Monday. Indiana Hoosiers, go ahead and get them their quarterback of next season, Josh Hoover, who made big strides and improvements this season. And now we saw what Fernando Mendoza did, kind of coming from relatively untalked about guy through the transfer portal out of Cal to the Heisman winner this past season. Josh Hoover has a little bit more hype, and I would say probably a little bit more developed of a quarterback than Mendoza was coming over to Indiana. I would be excited as an Indiana fan seeing what Hoover did this past season. He's going to be, kind of another guy, hit it right in stride. Mendoza followed up Curtis Rourke pretty phenomenally, and I think Josh Hoover will be another guy that we might, just because of what Indiana did and having the Heisman winner, we'll be looking at this guy early in the season as a potential Heisman winner.
I'm about to say, so should we just give him the award for next
Yeah.
year? I mean, it feels like it here. It's crazy, Austin. It's just for the Indiana perspective here. Just think about this. These 2 years for Kurt Cignetti have been unbelievable there. And yet, those are probably going to be the least talented teams he's going to have at Indiana. Josh Hoover, overall quarterback-wise, maybe you look at overall experience level better than Mendoza. And that's not saying Mendoza's bad. It's just experience level, maybe a more, ready quarterback for that system. I think Hoover is going to thrive there because you want to know why? Because despite Indiana being the best team in the nation, nobody went after their coordinators. Like what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Now you're telling me that entire system's back, bringing in Josh Hoover. Oh, it's just wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. This is a phenomenal move for Kurt Cignetti and them. He's going to thrive there. Enough said.
If I'm a quarterback in the transfer portal, I think after what I saw this year, the number one pick and the Heisman winner, I'd like to try and do that. If that's possible, I'd love to try and do that. I mean, isn't that like the dream college career when you're a kid growing up? You win the Heisman, you're the number one pick, you get to go to the NFL and be a superstar. Like, isn't that what's happening in Indiana right now? That's just incredible to me, what they've been able to do. Last guy we're going to hit on here was, a big talked about guy coming into this season. Injuries happened. The best story in college football happened. And now this guy's going to get another chance to prove himself. Austin Simmons at Ole Miss. It wasn't a skill issue for this guy. It was just he got hurt and somebody else got hot. And you can't blame Ole Miss for not going away from the guy that's got the momentum. And with the season they had, I don't think they'd have it any other way.
Mm.
But for Austin Simmons to stick it out with the team, even with being in the transfer portal and want to be there for this ride, but now getting to go to Missouri, a chance where he'll be able to prove himself, and a chance where we saw, Bo Pribula just a year ago kind of get to play pretty well in this offense till he got hurt. I think Austin Simmons could see similar, if not more, success. I think he's probably a better quarterback coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I think so personally. Again, I just remember the hype around this kid entering the season last year. I'm sure you do as well. I mean, he was so much build up for him. Such a smart. I think they said he graduated from Ole Miss within like 2 or 3 years. And I mean,
Yeah,
he's a
he's
smart.
already graduated. That's
Yeah, I was about to say
insane.
he's a smart kid, and I imagine he can get in that system and do pretty well. Which is why I hate that he's at Missouri. But besides the point there, I think it's a great fit for Missouri and Drinkwitz and them. Again, like I said, I think he's way better. No disrespect to Bo Pribula. As far as passing goes, I think he's way better than what Pribula was for their offense last year. So I think this is a big upgrade at quarterback, and we'll see. Can he live up to that hype that we thought he's going to have at the start of the preseason? I think it's going to work out pretty good for him at Missouri, as much as that pains me to say.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you there. I think it's going to look pretty good for Austin Simmons. But look, enough of the transfer portal talk. Let's get into these college football playoff games. And look, we're going to start with maybe it was the second game of the college football playoff, but it was the big stinker as far as a competitive football game. Indiana rolled right from the
Ooh.
first possession. They got the job done with that pick six, like you said. 56-22 final score. Mendoza throws 5 touchdowns, 177 yards. That tells you the kind of field position they were getting in this game. Dante Moore just couldn't really hold on to the ball, whether it was a fumble, whether it was an interception. This defense was hurting this Oregon team. It was unbelievable, the kind of beating they put. Look, I know they're missing their best defensive player, but I'm so ready for that talking point to be
Mm-hmm.
done. Clearly, it's not that much of a difference
Yeah.
maker for this team. It sucks, and I guess maybe it says a lot about this defense, what they've been able to do. But it's like I'm so tired of ESPN being like, oh, how is this defense going to hold up, missing their best defensive player? I think they're going to hold up pretty all right,
Yeah.
considering they've thrashed everybody they've played in the college football playoff. Um, I would call it a safety hazard. This was a bigger differential than the Oregon James Madison game, and James Madison put up a heck of more fight against the Oregon defense than Oregon did against Indiana. So, I mean, again, if we're
Oh.
banishing teams from the college football playoff, Oregon Ducks will never see you again, in my book. So, again, it's just how ridiculous this discourse is around the college football playoff right now. Sometimes teams are just really good, and I think that's fair to say. But thoughts on this game? Not trying to linger too long here, obviously.
Yeah, no, let's just say it like it is. BTA is what describes what this game was. Like you said, from
Absolutely.
from the jump.
I'm
From
glad
the
you said
jump.
it.
Like I came into this one, I was like, look, it doesn't, it's hard to beat the same team twice in one year. And Kurt Signetti said, watch this. He's like, watch this. Pick six first play. Like I said, Mendoza was efficient. The thing that hurt Oregon in this game, whenever it was still kind of within reach, was some turnovers. Dante Moore, the pick six, and then the fumble inside his own 10-yard line. And after that point, I mean, good luck keeping up with him. I mean, like I said, Mendoza, you look at the stat, like only threw for 177 yards. That tells you the dude was 17 to 20, 177 yards, 5 touchdowns. That tells you may be like, well, he's not doing much. No, he is. He's just efficient. He gets what he needs to in the smallest amount of time possible there. And guess
He
what?
didn't have that much field to work
Yeah,
with. He
exactly.
got he got almost as many yards as he possibly could.
That's absolutely. And then you factor in nearly 200 yards rushing to go along with that efficient play quarterback. It's like what are we doing here? Against the Oregon defense, like let's say like this, Oregon's defense, no joke. Oregon's got a very solid defensive unit, and Indiana made it look like they were playing an FCS school in week one. Like this was just ridiculous domination. And you want to talk about domination? Shout out the Indiana Hoosier fans. My gosh, that looked like a home game in Indiana for them. I think that was like 95% Indiana fans, maybe 5% Oregon fans. And, just pure domination. I mean, there's nothing else to describe it, Austin.
Indiana fans coming out of hibernation, they never thought this moment would ever come for their football team, and yet it has. One win away from a national championship now. What a story that would be for Kurt Signetti. Google me, I win. I mean, even if they lose the national championship, 2 losses in his first 2 years at Indiana, and they've both been in the college football playoff.
And again, and I'll say it like this again, Mike, I tell people, the crazy part, you look at it and you go, well, this is just a fluke. No, these are his worst teams. Because you know what all these 5-stars and 4-star and transfer portal guys are going to say? My gosh, look what he's done with those guys. Imagine if he gets all these elite level talent. It's like, what are we talking about here? So the sky is the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan once said. The ceiling is the roof for other teams. For Indiana, the ceiling is just never going to stop because it continue to grow every single game.
This has just been an incredible run. But let's talk about a pretty awesome game we had. In the Fiesta Bowl, Ole Miss, Miami, squaring off. And this was a back and forth offensive battle. Chambliss showed up. Kawan Lacey showed up. Mark Fletcher showed up. Carson Beck showed up. I mean, he statistically had a good game. I wouldn't want to be relying on Carson Beck. But, hey, it paid off in this game for Miami. Really, I think what this game came down to is extremely conservative and then extremely crazy management at the end of this game for Ole Miss. Conservative defense and this Miami offense that had been rolling took advantage. For once, it was the Miami offense that kind of lifted up the Miami defense.
Yes.
And we really haven't seen that. But look, this is what I thought Trinidad Chambliss would do. I thought it was going to be hard for this defense to stop him, and it was. Kawan Lacey, 11 attempts, 103 yards. That's what I'm talking about. But look, they kind of sagged off. I don't think Carson Beck's a rushing threat, but they acted like the guy can't walk. They acted like he was glued to the ground. They were rushing basically 2 guys the entire last drive. And then once they got inside the red zone, I didn't care for this. Maybe I just don't know ball like that. I didn't love calling timeouts while the clock is running inside of a minute when they need to get into the end zone, to win the game. Yeah. I don't like. Why should you stop the clock for them? Sure, if they score a touchdown and they go up 3 or they go up 4, you got to drive the whole field. The game's probably over at that point anyway. Yeah. But my big thing, and I know we talked about this, and I just want to say my piece on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree. The Hail Mary at the end of the game, we don't usually see a pass interference on a Hail Mary. And again, it was tough. That was a big spot to miss. But it's not like Miami did not deserve to win this game. I don't want it to sound like, oh, cursed Miami, even though I'm not super thrilled that they're in the national championship. They earned it. They played a good game. Carson Beck did what he needed to do. He did what Carson Beck has never done. He didn't get overwhelmed at nobody being open, and he tucked the ball and he ran for a game-winning touchdown. To me, I was like, wow, Carson Beck didn't force the ball into a tough spot in a tough situation. He made the right decision. I think that's hats off to Carson Beck for kind of doing something unexpected. The defense didn't think he would do it, and he did it. But look, you have to look at the play. It's a clear and obvious pass interference. And my biggest thing about this play is the receiver gets his hands on the ball. I stand by this. Had there not been a pass interference, that's a touchdown. That was a perfectly thrown ball. That ball was going to be caught. That was going to be a touchdown. I think that's a spot you can't miss a pass interference. Does that mean Trinidad Chambliss can throw another perfect ball from 15 yards closer and throw a touchdown? Maybe not. but I think he deserves the right to when it would have been a touchdown on the previous play. It was a perfect throw. It was a perfect effort from the receiver. And again, I'll stand by this. I'll die on this hill. That's a catch with legal defense. Legal defense, that's a catch.
Great game overall. Like I said, between these two, I mean,
Absolutely.
it was
Great game.
this was an awesome game. I will say this though, it was a great game. Miami was doing everything to keep Ole Miss in this game. How many
No kidding.
interceptions did Miami drop in this game? I lost track after five. I mean, like the amount of times I'm like, that's an intercept. How did you drop that? That's an intercept. How did you drop that? And it felt like Miami should have been blowing Ole Miss out in the first half, is what it really felt like. And when you have a great quarterback like Traynad Chambliss and you let him hang around the game, it's all they need to give him a chance at the end. Listen, Traynad, I know you want to come back for another year of college, but if you don't, I know a great team in Pittsburgh that would love to have you as their starting quarterback. Just going to leave that as an option for you.
If he went to the NFL right now, though, he's the number two guy. Like
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
he's a jet. He's a jet, I fear.
I mean, Ty Simpson or Traynad Chambliss for QB2, I'd be like, what do you mean there's a debate? This isn't a debate. Did you not see what this guy did in the playoff against against this Georgia defense and this Miami defense that have been one of the best ones? The thing that got me, the touchdown where they took the lead, I don't know if you saw this clip, but I saw it and I legit was like, that's bad. It reminded me of like the Cam Newton you've been watching film thing. He claps his hands and he sees the Miami defender getting ready like corner blitz, and he's just like, yeah, like come on, come on. I know you're gonna blitz me. Brings it on and he still freaking delivers a dot. I'm like, that's bad A. I can't even lie.
Yeah.
That was sick. And you know, if he does decide to come back is able to come back for another year for sure, like you said, it seems like he is. Man, I tell you what, this QB class is gonna be fun next year with some of these guys. And this is a great game. Like I said, I've said my piece on social media and stuff for the pass interference. I get it. And if it's like a normal play in a game, I agree. That's pass interference all the time. I agree with that. But the thing I'll say again is you just don't see it a lot on Hail Marys because most of the time on Hail Marys, you're boxing out. Pretty much you're boxing out to get position off. So, of course, there's going to be contact. I will say I agree with you on this. That was a heck of a throw from Traynad Chambliss to that corner. I said, I don't think you could have thrown that Hail Mary in a better spot for a chance for him to
No,
catch it. Like, I
no.
don't think you could have thrown it in a better spot. And again, I see the
It's a
argument for it.
touchdown without pass interference. It
Yeah,
just is.
I was about to say, without him fighting for it with the contact, I agree. That's probably a touchdown. Or, it's at least getting looked at as did he have full possession before he slid out of bounds? Like we're at least having that discussion here. But like I said, Carson Beck made some great plays late. Like I said, the thing we least expected, Carson Beck to take off running. Like you said, they acted like the man had never scrambled in his entire life.
Yeah.
Like the man can run. It's not like his legs are broken. The man can
I
run.
I get it. I don't consider Carson Beck a rushing threat. The longest rush of his career is 15 yards. But you can't not pressure him.
Right.
You have to he just didn't have a tough decision to make. It was either somebody's going to get open because I have 13 seconds to throw the football,
Yeah.
or if somebody really isn't getting open, I just have to take off to literally walk in the game-winning touchdown after the clock has been stopped 3 times. Uh, I again, that's what I don't. I really did not understand the timeouts. I get maybe wanting to have a chance to counter the drive, but if they kick a field goal, you go to overtime. If they score a touchdown, you more than likely lose the game. If they're going to throw the ball short and not use timeouts and let the clock run, the clock is their enemy. If time runs out, you win the game.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't understand. And it came back to bite them. They had time to run plays and get into the end zone when they should have been having to hurry up and make quick decisions or burn their own timeouts.
I think the thing that hurt him was the way the Georgia game ended because it was the exact same situation, except Georgia kicked the field goal. Georgia kicked the field
Yeah.
goal. They held him to 3 there and it ended up working out. But because they let all that time go off and then they let him give up the touchdown, it makes it not look, as good. Because I think they just saw it's like, look, it worked for us against Georgia. It'll work now. And it unfortunately did not end up working for him. But man, oh man, Austin, if you had told me at the start of the season, hey, we're gonna have an Indiana Miami national championship, I would have been like in what sport are we talking about here? What national
Yeah.
championship? But here we
College
are. What a
basketball.
matchup it is, though.
Yeah, these are two great teams, two deserving teams who are here. They've played their butts off in this college football playoff. And now we're going to get to see them clash here on Monday, 6:30 in Miami. So home field advantage for the road team in the college football playoff, if you will, by seeding the road team. But obviously, it's not going to be much like that. It'll be interesting to see how many Indiana fans they can try and squeeze into this building with the way they've been traveling. Um, but let's get to it. Looking at this game, looking at this national championship, what are your thoughts? Who do you think's going to win?
Oh man, again, I think it's a great matchup. Look, it's strength against strength here. You got this efficient Indiana offense, one of the best third down offenses in all college football, going against this Miami pass rush. That is one of the best third down defenses in all college football here. And you could look at it from the perspective. I think with Trinidad Chambliss, the thing that hurts you going against a defense like that is he's so mobile. He can make so many plays outside the pocket. It can break defenses down no matter what. Fernando, he's a guy, it's not, I'm not saying it's a bad thing for him, but it's a
Yeah.
thing where he's going to stay in the pocket and he's going to deliver the throws. You really don't see him scrambling outside of the pocket a lot there. So, my question here is, in that situation, do Ruben Bain and this Miami pass rush get home? If they do, this can be an interesting ball game. If they don't, we might as well call this thing after the first quarter if they're not getting pressure on Mendoza. But the other factor is here, we've seen Mendoza handle pressure. Did we not watch him against this Ohio State defense? He took a giant hit first play of the game and made some big throws late in that game. But that Ohio State defense got some pressure on him throughout most of that game and caused some issues. So I think Miami's defense can do that. And then on the other side with this Miami team, look, these are just overall for both sides, offenses that run the ball well, both sides that are pretty balanced and great defensive units. I think this is an evenly matched game. Difference to me is, which one do I trust? Which one do I have greater experience with in clutch situations? Kurt Signetti or Mario Cristobal? And I mean, there's an obvious point that sticks out here. Georgia Tech for those. Sorry, Miami, to bring that one up. At the
I
end of the
know.
day, I think the better coaching, the better coach team at the end of the day is the Indiana Hoosiers. I think Miami has more talent. Their defensive talent keeps this game close. Lower scoring affair than people think. Indiana, I'm going to pick the Hoosiers to win the national championship and create the greatest turnaround we have seen in the history of this freaking sport, Austin.
I agree to a lot of the points you made. I think that, I won't go harping on the strengths and these weaknesses, but I will say, like you touched on in the Ohio State game, we've seen Indiana tested by good defenses. The Ohio State game, a good example. But even then, Fernando Mendoza was able to make the plays. And I think the important thing, not enough people are talking about, we want to talk about Mendoza. We want to talk about how good this offense has been. Indiana has one of the best defenses in the
Mm-hmm.
country. In that Ohio State game, what helped them win? It sounds obvious,
Yeah.
but the defense didn't let Ohio State score more points.
I was about to say, look at their red zone defense in that game. I think they stopped Ohio State like 4 or 5 times in the red zone, held them to 3 points. Some of them they missed, which ultimately was the difference there.
The team that scores the most points wins. And when you have a defense that stops people from scoring points, it helps a lot. So yes, did Ohio State affect and slow down the Indiana offense? Yes. Have they been affected and have they been slowed down? But their defense is always going to keep them in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing I fear here. Miami's not going to be able to run away and blow them out. It's going to be close. They're going to keep Carson Beck in check. I just don't know that Miami has the manpower on offense to compete, to hang against this defense. I think it'll be a close game. I like Indiana to win the national championship, though, with you. The greatest turnaround in college football. Kurt Signetti, get him a statue in Indiana.
Hey, totally non-biased. Kurt, you're from Pittsburgh. If you want to see if you can do it at the NFL level, there's a team in your hometown just waiting for you. If you want to test it at the NFL level, go ahead. No one will judge you. I will not judge you if you want to do that.
Crazy research that this guy is doing. Um,
I,
coming in to the national championship game, kind of a little bit of a different bet of the week segment. But do you have any bets from this national championship you want to look at? Maybe throw out there.
Man, I'm not gonna lie to you that the over 40 the 47 and a half over under, I kind of want to lean with the under here. I think that might be where I end up going. I just think these are two good defensive units. I don't see a ton of points being scored in this game. I think these are two defenses that are going head to head, two efficient offenses. I get that. I just don't see it happen. So for my play, I'm going to go with my bet of the week for national championship. I'll take the under 47 and a half. I mean, I just don't see it being a super high. It could be like 27-10 Indiana could win. That's the kind of game I could see playing here, or like 27-13, something like that. I just don't see it being a super high scoring game because of these
I'm with you. I
defenses.
like I like the low scoring, and I like that take. I'm going to take Miami plus 8.5.
That's a
I
fair
think
bet.
they're going to keep the game close. I don't think it's going to be an Indiana blowout. I think these defenses will help kind of keep the offenses in check. Not that necessarily there'll be a ton of turnovers. I think they'll keep it close, but I think Indiana's got the offense that makes the plays at the end. But Miami keeps it inside 8.5 points.
I agree. Hey, that worked for me against Ohio State, and it worked for me betting against them against Ole Miss in our head-to-head bet of the week. Don't didn't
Yeah,
want to bring that up that I came out on top there, but
that's tough. I'll take it all for a Bears playoff win over the Packers. I
that is
think
fair.
that's
That is a valid. That is valid.
sacrifice it all. But with all that being said, that's going to do it for us here at the Bold Take Podcast. Make sure to listen to the NFL episode if you haven't. It's a good one. But that's Austin Wader. I'm Austin Hill, and we want to thank you for listening.